We interrupt this program to bring you an important Wayfair message. Wayfair's got style tips for every home. This is Styles McKenzie helping you make those rooms sing. Today's style tip. When it comes to making a statement, treat bold patterns like neutrals. Go wild, like an untamed animal print area rug under a rustic farmhouse table from Wayfair.com. Arr, fierce. This has been your Wayfair style tip to keep those interiors superior.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Welcome back to the basketball show on this fine Saturday here on your sports leader, Sports 1440. I'm Paul Sir along with Ryan Reed, and we're pleased to be joined now by our next guest, Mike Decourcy, an old friend. Mike, welcome back to the basketball show.
Paul and Ryan, great to talk to you.
It's great to talk to you as well. Madness is upon us. A lot of conference tournaments have already started. A lot more get underway. Certainly the big boys are getting underway through the course of this week. And I'm talking, of course, ACC, Big Ten, etc. So, Mike, if you had a comment on the overall basketball season, top to bottom, in terms of quality in this new era of freedom of movement across teams, NIL money, what would your 30,000-foot opinion be of this NCAA season?
Well, I think it's been a blast. I hear a lot of complaints about the player movement and that sort of thing, but I look around pretty much every sport that I see, and player movement is a constant. It happens everywhere. Trade deadline comes in the NHL, and players are going every which way. And some of it seems like fans have been so conditioned to that, they just don't like it when the players get to say where they're going to go. That seems to bother them more than their teams say trading Luka Doncic for Anthony Davis. I don't know. I think I'd rather have a player decide he wants to move than somebody make a move like that.
Yeah, that one kind of throws everything out the window in terms of making sense. I think it's interesting because part of it, don't you think, Mike, is just adapting to change, because the NCAA has been almost draconian over its history in terms of restricting players' movement, players' scholarships. I mean, I remember Rick Majerus, the late great Rick Majerus, being threatened to be sanctioned by the NCAA because he bought pizza for his guys after a practice. It's how times have changed. But don't you think a lot of it is just that people are getting used to the idea of all of this movement and the compensation players are receiving for playing in college?
Yeah, I think generally, for the most part, fans have grown accustomed to the compensation and aren't really that bothered by it. I think you'd probably still have some old school folks who look at it and aren't going to be happy with any sort of change in that regard. But I think the thing that really gets them is the players having so much control, and it's certainly what makes the coach's job more difficult. In some ways, nearly an impossible job. Because you already, as a college basketball coach, had a 70 to 100-hour work week for 8 to 9 months out of the year with recruiting and then coaching and all of the other things that they have to do. Then they add this on, and now that period extends basically to year-round when you're working that much. And so you see different coaches who have walked away from the sport. And I'm not talking about Mike Krzyzewski. He was 75 years old. I don't know why he gets lumped in with this. It's okay to retire when you're 75 and
that's
you're
not a bad thing.
How many millions of dollars. It's okay. You're allowed to do that. But some of the coaches who are not quite as old, who have walked away and specifically cited the change, instead of saying, look, this job's gotten too hard and I've got a lot of money, and it's not worth it anymore. They try to turn it back on, this is not what I signed up for, and all that sort of thing. And my response to that is, okay, well, here's the deal. You're a phenomenal basketball coach. If anybody who got the opportunity to play for you would be empowered, would be getting a tremendous experience. So go coach some other level. Go coach D3. They don't have this. Go coach high school. They don't have this much. As long as you're in a school district, they don't have much of this. And people are going to be flocking to your school district if they can play for you. But they don't do that. So I don't like the narrative that's spun. That part of it, be honest about it. You've made $5 million a year for 10 years. That means that you've earned $50 million, which means that you're probably not going to ever need to earn another dime, and you don't want to spend all of your life working. That's okay. I totally get that.
I think that's a great set of points that you just made. Is that it causes so many narratives to spin out of this change, and I think what's been the most difficult to digest, Mike, and it's still in the process, I think, of acclimating to the landscape, to the college basketball landscape, is just how many changes from so many directions have happened within a relatively short period of time. Add in now that junior colleges don't count against your 4-year eligibility. That's a very interesting change. So we're dealing with an evolution of a sport, and I think the evolution is not done yet, because now there's talk of players starting to consider suits about how many years they can play. Why can I only play 4 years? Why can't I play as many years as I want to now? Like, once you open that door, the slippery slope starts, and we're in the midst of that. So I can see all of this upheaval having real ramifications, and it would be tough to be a D1 coach and have all of this player movement taking place. But let's go to the players. Talk about the season. Give me your top 3 teams of the season that have been the most consistent and the most, I think, pleasing to you to watch this year as they get ready for March Madness.
Well, those are 2 different questions, because
yes, they are.
I haven't really had a lot of fun watching Duke because look at who they're playing. And I want to see Duke play really good teams and have to really work, because I think they're wonderful. But I don't want to see them win every game by 40. And I don't know, maybe they go into the NCAAs and win every game by 40, but I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think they're going to have some really difficult games, and I could certainly see them winning 6 games in a row, but I don't think they're beating any of the SEC powers by 40 like they just destroyed Wake the other night. I think they're going to have to work really hard to win the NCAA championship. So although I really do enjoy watching Cooper Flagg, he's just a phenomenal talent and a pleasure to watch play, because he understands the game and he loves the game and he plays the game like he loves it. And for that reason, I've really enjoyed watching him. But I want to see Duke play some real competition, and I'm looking forward to the NCAAs for that. I've enjoyed watching Auburn because they are such a together group. They are phenomenal at both ends of the floor. Janai Broome has had such a wonderful year coming from, and this is one of the things I like about the transfer thing. And we've seen players last year, Dalton Connect, come from almost literally nowhere to be a first-team All-American. And then you see someone like Janai Broome, who I watched 3 years ago play for Morehead State in the Ohio Valley Championship game and play very well, but he wasn't this player. He goes to Auburn, and all of a sudden it's a different deal. It's somebody who grows in the game and grows with the challenges, and I like that. I like seeing that. So those are some of the things that have been really a joy to watch. And then you watch Houston, and I don't know how much fun it is to watch Houston, but it's amazing.
They are amazing.
You look at it like, okay, so if I can go see National Lampoon's Animal House and laugh, that's fun. That's not Houston. If I watch a movie like for instance, that I saw this year, The Substance, which was nominated for Best Picture, I mean, that's not always fun, but it's impressive. Some of the things that the filmmakers were able to do, both technically and with a story, it's not a lot of fun, but it's really amazing to watch. At least it was until the final 20 minutes, which went off the rails. But Houston's, with their defense, they don't make it much fun, certainly not for the opposition, but they are amazingly together, beautifully coached. I think they love playing for their coach and playing together, and for that reason, they are a joy to watch.
You know, I watched Houston last weekend, and I agree with you. They are the nightmare team to play against. I mean, like you're saying, it's one thing to watch them. Can you imagine being out on the court having to play against a team that's that together, that in sync defensively? and really disciplined on offense. Like but they're a great team. How about the SEC this year, though, Mike? And I'm talking to Mike Decourcy from Sporting News here on the basketball show. The SEC this year, like some people have said something as lofty as that maybe the greatest basketball conference top to bottom in the history of the NCAA. That's pretty lofty, but I don't know that that's very far off.
I think it's important to sort of put a qualifier into that. And when I say that, I mean relative to its season. Like, we don't have Patrick Ewing and Chris Mullin in the same league anymore. That doesn't come up any longer. Patrick Ewing played 4 years at Georgetown. Chris Mullin played 4 years at St. John's. They're both Hall of Fame players and among the best college basketball players to ever play. And the Big East of 1985 had both of them. And we don't have that any longer. But we have leagues like this one that you look at them compared to the other conferences. And while the Big Ten is having a wonderful season with 10 or 11 NCAA tournament candidates, and the Big 12 is having a very fine season with 8 or 9, the SEC has 14 NCAA tournament candidates and will probably place 13 at minimum of them into the field. It's really amazing to watch. The competition is terrific every night. You don't really know, although they have 4 powerhouse teams that are contending for number 1 seeds. I think at this point Auburn is a lock in that level, and Florida is in great shape. You still have to finish the job, but then you have Tennessee and Florida. But even at that, you don't know who's going to win every night. Texas goes into Mississippi State, which has had a much better year, but Texas is desperate. Mississippi State maybe not playing for quite as much, and Texas goes out and takes them out. So you don't really know exactly what's going to happen, even in a league with the powerhouses they have.
You know, that really is marvelous, and to have that kind of urgency and that kind of tension in every game really is unusual. What adds to this landscape, and it ties into our earlier conversation, Mike, is the shift in conferences and how many teams now are in these power conferences that you're describing. I mean, the Big Ten is the Big 21. You know, the unthinkability of UCLA and USC playing in the Big Ten. Oregon is just it's incredible. Stanford out on the East Coast. I mean, it's really quite amazing to watch. But the alignment has led to some of the results that you just described, hasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, UCLA playing at Purdue and Illinois and some of the games that we had as a result of that. It's kind of fun. Michigan State going out to Southern California and playing out there and having to compete with those teams. It's led to a lot of fun. And on the women's side, you have UCLA and USC among the very best teams in the country. And the fact that their 2 games were so good, and the fact that they were branded as Big Ten games was good for the Big Ten. They lost Caitlin Clark after last year, and she was such an incredible draw and such an incredible player. And you turn around, and the next thing you know, Juju Watkins is in your league, and you don't miss Caitlin as much. You still have a phenomenal talent, a phenomenal draw, a very popular player, and you have UCLA and USC maybe competing for a national championship. Maybe even, who knows, maybe even against one another.
No, that's so true. Now, a final question for you, Mike. And I'm talking to Mike Decourcy from the Sporting News here on the basketball show. But the final question would be, Cooper Flagg, obviously, just emblazoned in everybody's minds about what he's going to mean at the end of this year, providing, of course, as we all don't think would ever have a snowball's chance of happening, him coming back to Duke. But Cooper Flagg, there's a lot of talk about this being such a deep draft this year. Who would the 2 players be after Cooper Flagg in the draft that you think would have the most impact coming out of college going to the league?
Well, Dylan Harper would be the first of those. He's a tremendous talent. He hasn't been able to impact winning in the way that he'd like. It's pretty obvious. But I do think he's going to be exceptional at the NBA level. I think that we've gone through the phase of people trying to manufacture other people, other players, the idea that other players would be taken over Cooper Flagg. I think we've gotten to the point where now people who are just trying to make conversation. I'm not big on that. I say what I believe and what I could be wrong about my opinions, but they're always based in logic and fact. And if you don't agree with me that Cooper Flagg is the best American basketball prospect since at least Anthony Davis, that's okay. We can have a debate about that. But if you think that someone in the NBA is going to take someone other than Cooper Flagg with the number 1 overall pick, you can't make a cogent case for that. Even with really good players like Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper, no one who's get paid to do this for a living, and I don't mean what I do, I mean evaluating talent and putting it on your team. No one who's paid to do that for a living can look at Cooper Flagg and say, oh, I can find somebody better in this draft. Because there hasn't been anybody better in any draft probably for at least a decade. So, no, it's just not that simple. He does too many things well. He has so many things that he can bring to the sport. And when he gets to the NBA level and it's all he does and he plays with other pros, you're going to see someone who affects winning in every way that it can be affected.
Totally agree. Well summarized. And, Mike, we're out of time for today, regrettably, but I really hope we can talk with each other as March Madness gets underway. And thanks so much for making the time today. I know you're really busy, so it was a real pleasure to have you on.
You bet, Paul. Anytime during the tournament, things sort of wind down a little bit because you don't have any work until the games start, as opposed to now when the work never stops. So please feel free to reach out.
I will do that, Mike. Enjoy March Madness. Mike Decourcy, Sporting News, joining us here on the Basketball Show. We're going to take a break right now, and when we come back, we're going to come back with the co-founder of the CEBL, Mr. Mike Morreale, here on Sports 1440.